So today I'm going to be exposing 7 horrific truths about the dairy industry. So if you're interested in becoming informed on this topic, go ahead and keep watching. The dairy industry goes through ridiculous lengths, spends millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, every year on advertisements, trying to convince consumers that not only is consuming dairy natural and healthy, but it's also kind to animals. And this deception goes as far as creating advertisements depicting happy cows in the dairy industry, grazing in the open fields, enjoying their lives. And this is something that just does not happen. Dairy cows live excruciating lives full of pain, suffering, confinement, and that is the absolute truth. So that's something that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to get into detail about that. So here are my 7 horrific truths about the dairy industry. So the number 1 horrific truth about the dairy industry is that cows must be pregnant in order to produce milk. Now this might be obvious to some, but believe it or not, I think a lot of people out there sort of have this idea that cows are just some magical milk making machines, but that's just not the case. Just like any other mammal in the world, cows have to be pregnant in order to produce milk. Because of the fact that they have to be pregnant in order to produce milk, dairy cows are sentenced to a lifetime of suffering, being artificially inseminated over and over again so that they can remain in the cycle of pregnancy, birth, and lactation so that they can produce milk for human beings to steal. Because remember, this milk is intended for their baby cow. So that leads me to my next point. The second horrific truth about the dairy industry is that dairy cows are impregnated over and over and over again throughout the course of their lives. Like I said before, this is in order to keep them in the constant cycle of lactation so that they can continue to produce milk. And this is a painful process of artificial insemination, whereby the farmer uses a device that he or she inserts into the cow's cervix and deposits the semen from the male cow. As you can imagine, this process is extremely, extremely painful for the cow, and not only painful for her and abusive towards her, it's extremely sick. What kind of a species takes complete control over another innocent species so that they can exploit them and exploit the reproductive system of the female just so that they can take something that is not theirs, something that is unhealthy for human consumption? The third horrific truth about the dairy industry is that baby calves are taken and stolen from their mother within hours of being born. practice of abducting this baby from its mother just hours after birth is done so because why? Because the dairy industry wants to keep that milk and sell it for human beings to consume. As you can imagine, this is a traumatic experience for both mother and baby cow. And just like any other species of mammal, just like human beings love their babies, cows love their babies as well. There has been footage filmed of mother cows running, chasing after their babies after they've been stolen away from them. Again, what kind of sick species exploits innocent animals and their babies for profit and greed and just the gluttonous consumption of a substance that was never intended for them in the first place? The fourth horrific truth about the dairy industry is what happens to these baby calves after they're stolen from their mothers. Male calves are considered useless to the dairy industry because they don't produce milk. So they are sold to be slaughtered, to be murdered for veal. And what happens to female baby calves? Well, since they are female and they will reach a certain age where they can get pregnant and produce milk, they are put back into the horrific pain and suffering of what their mothers endured, and they're put back into the dairy industry to become dairy cows. They will spend a lifetime of suffering and exploitation just like their mothers did. And then when they are impregnated repeatedly and repeatedly over and over again in order to produce milk, they will also have their babies stolen away from them. The fifth horrific truth about the dairy industry is that after about 5 or 6 years of this horrific life of being used and abused and exploited and tortured, dairy cows will be slaughtered for hamburger meat. After about 5 or 6 years of this torture, their bodies are labeled spent by the dairy industry, meaning that they no longer produce the amount of milk that is considered profitable for the dairy industry. And so they are sent to be slaughtered for hamburger meat. Imagine enduring a lifetime of pain, suffering, and trauma, only to be slaughtered in the end and never be able to come out of it with a happy ending. This is the truth for all dairy cows. It doesn't matter if you purchase free range or organic dairy. It just does not matter. The result is the same. They use and abuse these mother cows for as long as they possibly can to profit as much as they possibly can. And then once the profit is no longer good enough, and once the cow's body is so used up and so abused that they can no longer profit off of her anymore, she's murdered for hamburger. The sixth horrific truth about the dairy industry is that dairy cows often suffer from painful infections called mastitis, which actually results in pus getting into the milk. Due to the fact that dairy cows are genetically manipulated, given hormones and chemicals and drugs so that they can produce massive amounts of milk, they develop these infections because of the hormones and the growth hormones and the drugs that they are given to produce mass amounts of milk. Their udders become extremely enlarged and swollen, and they become infected with mastitis. The result of mastitis is pus leaking from the udders. This pus, make no mistake that this pus does end up in the milk. This is also caused by the use of the equipment that they use to milk the cows. These cows suffer physical injuries as well to their udders from this harsh equipment that they are being attached to. The USDA allows more pus cells in the final milk product than any other country in the world. This brings me to my 7th horrific truth about the dairy industry. So the 7th horrific truth is that milk contains so many disgusting, poisonous substances that does not belong in the human body. Okay, milk contains naturally occurring hormones along with added growth hormones that they give to the cows. It contains antibiotics that the cows are given to try and cover up and reduce the infection that they get in their udders. Okay, and there is, like I said, from the infections, there is pus in the milk. And there is also naturally occurring white blood cells in the cow's milk, because those white blood cells are naturally occurring in the cow's milk in order to build up the baby calf's immune system. Okay, and again, like I said, naturally occurring growth hormones that are intended to grow the baby calf. There are so many things in milk that are just absolutely not fit for the human body, not to mention the saturated fat, the cholesterol. Milk is just an antibiotic, hormone, pus, saturated fat, cholesterol-laden soup that just does not belong in the human body. We are the only species that takes the milk from another species and drinks it. As grown adults drinking the milk of another species, this milk biologically designed by the mother cow's body to nourish the calf. Okay, humans are not baby calves. That is why a lot of people are lactose intolerant. In reality, you're not lactose intolerant. You're just not a baby calf. Alright guys, so that's all I gotta say for this video. Thanks for watching again, and I'm gonna keep uploading as often as possible, shelling out this information because the world needs to know. Everyone needs to know what's going on in the meat and dairy industries. Everyone needs to reconnect with the compassion for animals, and everyone needs to go vegan. So thanks for watching guys. Again, educate yourself, go vegan, and I'll see you again soon.